Hello, Texas, and welcome to the Red Dirt April Madness. I've got two guests with me today. I've got Quayde Addison. Say hi, Quayde.
What's up, guys? How are y'all doing today?
And I've got Andrew Quinn, photographer extraordinaire.
What is up, y'all?
So Quayde is in Oklahoma, and Andrew is in New Braunfels. Did I say that right?
You did. Only one.
I am in Belton, Texas, and we are learning technology together as we speak. So there's going to be some bumps along the way, but invited these two guys in to help me introduce our April promotion at Hello Texas USA. It is the Red Dirt Madness. We missed the NCAA tournament. I did, and I miss live music desperately. So we are combining the two into, and let's see if I can share the screen real quick. Bang! We have created a 72-team tournament with 8 categories, 4 regions. It's going to take all month to vote on, but it's going to be cool. So I'll stop sharing for a second. Quayde, I appreciate you coming. Tell everybody about yourself real quick.
Man, I appreciate being brought on to the podcast, man. You posted on Facebook the other day, like, yo, I need some color commentators. And I don't think I've ever had a better job description in my life. I'm the owner, operator, and head failure at Quayde Things Podcast. I love it. It's, I've done some tour managing, did a little singing, a little songwriting myself, failed, loved it though. Done a lot of tour stuff, was on the airwaves, the FM radios for the Texas Red Dirt scene for a little while there out of Lubbock. And it just led me into doing a podcast, man. And I never been one to, I'm not a calm person. I mean, I'm chill, but I'm not a calm person. I'm kind of the wild guy. I always have been. And the podcast platform has allowed me to do that. Whereas, it's kind of been a hindrance in other places. So I'm just grateful for the opportunity to do that. And dude, Hello Texas is killing it, man. Y'all's podcast is great. Just want to say that.
I want you to know you really are an inspiration. When we started doing, I'm like, look, if Quayde can do it, we can do it. I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, but literally, I'm not trying to be the best of the baddest. This is not a competition. Like, new slang is freaking killing it. That's a lot of people.
You introduced me to new slang, and I'm obsessed with that guy.
Dude, Thomas is a fucking genius, dude.
He is. He's brilliant. And no, really, when we decided to do this, we started looking at who else out there was doing it, and your guests are all the same ones that I'm just stealing from you every time, and trying not to ask the same questions or ask them in different ways. But so it's great to have you. Great to finally talk to you face to face. We talk online quite a bit, but not like this. So we'll do this more often. Yes, and sir. Then in our second color commentator seat, we have an actual saint. Is that fair to say, Andrew? Andrew Quinn, one of the top photographers in the game. Andrew, tell everybody about yourself and why I called you a saint, because I think it's a really cool thing.
Man, I am blessed enough to be part of Shane Smith and the Saints full-time touring crew. I am the photographer, videographer. I help manage media. So anything you see out online, I have a hand in now. But a little bit about me, I have been a photographer in the Texas country music scene with the air quotes for about, 5 years now, since I was 15. So I was 15, about 5 years now. So it's been crazy. All these artists are some of the greatest people I've ever met. I've never failed to just be blown away by how open these guys are to everything, just to help people out whenever they can. And I've been blessed to make a little career out of this in a very short time, and be the kid that everyone took under their wings. And now being an adult, having my own business at it, it's been amazing. It's been really great. But yeah, that's really it. Photo, video is kind of my thing, and being a Texas country fan through and through, after not being one until we moved to New Braunfels. Man, I love this. I'm so excited to be a part of this thing.
Yeah.
It's really cool. It's like been an idea that has been thrown around by a couple people, but it's never really been like picked up. And I'm really glad that y'all Hello Texas are doing it, because I'm excited to see the way it goes that y'all are going to do it. It's going to be more professional and really cool.
Well, that's cool. And let me say first, I've always been an admirer of how, even as a little preteen, when you were younger, how you scrambled and hustled. And the first time I met you, I knew, well, you're going to climb the ladder, and you're living just about every photographer's dream, doing what you're doing. And I've just always been impressed. And your photography is top notch. It always has been. And it just keeps getting better and better every time you go out. So let's go into the project. The Red Dirt Madness is what we're calling it. It was my friends at Coke FM did a bracket called the Snack It for best coronavirus snacks.
Oh yeah.
And my daughter jumped on that and really enjoyed it. And I thought, well, and this idea has flown in my head. And then 2 nights ago, I stayed up all night and I put everybody in a category. So here's what I did. We've got 8 categories. We have 4 regions. The first region being the ladies and the tramps. The ladies are the top 9 female artists. And when I say top 9 on all these, it's loosely based on Spotify streams. That way it got me out of who I know and who I don't know. And the tramps are the songwriters. So let's start with region 1. Y'all see the screen?
Yes, sir.
All right. So what we'll do is we'll start with, we've got eight seeds, and we have a play-in game in each bracket. So the first round of voting, starting April 1st, is going to be the play-in games. But let's start with the top seed in the ladies bracket is Sunny Sweeney. Y'all know Sunny?
Yeah.
She's one of
watched her open up for Garth Brooks in Lubbock. That was freaking cool.
I saw her open for Garth in San Antonio.
Nice. And then she is going to be playing against the first play-in game, the winner of Holly Beth versus Bree Bagwell. What are y'all thoughts about the play-in game? You know Holly Beth? She's from.
I do know Holly Beth. She's out of Fort Worth, right?
I believe so. I don't know her as well, but she has a huge following. And Bree Bagwell is one of my favorites, and just kind of the luck of the draw on this one.
Me and Bree are both New Mexican, actually. She's from Las Cruces. I was born in Las Cruces, and I moved to Lubbock from New Mexico. So got a little bit of hometown, a little home state love going there. You know what I mean?
So we don't have to go through who we want to win. I think that's an interesting play-in matchup right there. And the winner of that game will play the 4th seed, Caitlin Butts, versus the powerhouse, Kelly Willis. It blows me away that Kelly Willis is a 5 seed.
How are these seats based, by the way?
On Spotify monthly listeners. Okay. Loosely. I made a couple of adjustments, and really I did it to get my bias out of it a little bit. And because there's some of these artists that I haven't met yet, and I don't know very well, and I was actually kind of surprised. And I left out a bunch. There's a bunch of people that probably should be there that I'm sure we're going to get emails like, how in the world do you not include? And then there's people that are going to be miscategorized moving forward that you're going to say, that's not rock. It's all designed to start controversy.
Right.
Email me the hate just as long as you email me. So we'll go on to number 3, Kylie Frey. I don't know her. She's another one that has a huge following. I've listened to a bunch of her stuff in the last couple days. Do y'all know Kylie?
I do not.
I think I've met her once or twice in passing, but I don't know her. No.
Yeah,
I doubt she'd recognize me in a crowd.
She's going up against who I think could be the sleeper of this bracket, which is Jamie Lynn Wilson.
Man, Jamie is just one of the most amazing songwriters in this scene. Like disregarding gender completely, just top-notch songwriter, period. All the way back to when she was with the Gougers and the Trishas, all the way until like her most recent album, Jumping Over Rocks. It's just
Dude, I got the gold vinyl.
Great music. Great.
If you pay attention to Hello Texas anything, there's if she doesn't have a restraining order out against me, then she might soon. But she hasn't come close in a couple years to where I live, so I have to find her. And I'm just obsessed with anything she puts out online. Her live videos,
She's a solid human, dude. Just through and through.
Absolutely.
Her Twitter is awesome. Her Instagram's awesome. Like, all of her music's great. She's a top 20 solid human. Like,
yeah, I agree. I totally agree. So that'll be an interesting matchup, and we'll power through this. And then number 2 seed, Holly Tucker. Holly Tucker has a huge following. Holly Tucker, she was here a couple weeks ago, sang a couple songs in my living room right over there. She's been online a bunch the last couple of weeks, just killing it. And then she's going to go up against, and this is I don't know if I call it unfortunate, Holly Tucker and Courtney Patton in the first round is a huge matchup. And I know that they know each other and they like each other.
Not after this tournament.
Yeah, that's one thing. I was going over my bracket that you gave me last night with my girlfriend, and she told me more than once. She's like, "You have to take emotions out of this. You have to take the friend zone out." I'm like, I know, but oh.
Well, it goes out of voting. So we're going to figure the voting
from
part
all
out.
aspects too. You have to remember that, like, all these people are all still friends too. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Well, one thing if you look at the second round, it could be a Courtney Patton Jamie Lynn matchup, which I thought was pretty interesting as well. The Caitlin Butts Kelly Willis matchup is neck and neck, which is what it should be with the 4 and 5. It's just interesting. It's going to be how the votes come in on how this follows. I hope we get a whole ton of votes to get an actual representation, or just all of Holly or Courtney's fans, or should I say Crystal's fans with Courtney Patton. Go to Courtney Patton's web Facebook and go watch her video she's been putting out the last 3 days of Crystal. Awesome. You'll understand what I'm talking about.
I think Crystal's better than Earl Dibbles Jr. There, I said it.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, high five. That, in fact, if I ever do a podcast with Courtney, Crystal's got to come. So.
Oh yeah, there needs to be a cameo.
But is that going to be a thing? Like, I thought about that. Is like when you do things like this, and they get picked up, like with Tyler Childers, he had that music video where he played
Tammy Childers.
Yeah, and he, like, forever he's going to be asked questions about that. So is Courtney going to get, like, asked about that for the rest of the time? Just like Granger is about Earl Dibbles Jr. Like, they're inseparable now. So it's like, I wonder if that's a thought she has in her brain right now.
If it's not, she's going to have it after hearing this, or after somebody tells her about it.
I hope so. And
yeah, I'm actually going to go wash my hands real quick, boys. I'll be right back.
All right.
COVID.
So, okay.
Behind, Quayde. You're behind.
We've got the first group in, which is the ladies. And as soon as Quayde gets back, and we should all be washing our hands. I don't have my stuff here. We will start with the Tramps, which is the songwriters. I just thought it was a good name for the region.
I'm back. Y'all could have kept talking.
I did a little bit. Okay. So we've got the first section of Region 1, Lady and the Tramps, in there. I like your red shake-hand on the wall behind you. He's coming up in a little bit.
Yeah.
So we've got a long way to go. So we will start on the second half of Lady and the Tramps, which are the songwriters, with seed 1, which is Hayes Carl. I debated if Hayes belonged here or in some of the other brackets. I decided that his songwriting is good enough that he deserves a number 1 seed in the songwriter category. And he's going up against who I think is one of my 3 top favorite songwriters of all time, Walt Wilkins.
Like, I'll keep it brief, but Matson Rayner out here in New Braunfels, he's the radio DJ for KNBT. He and I have talked so much about Walt Wilkins and how, like, he's almost the most unknowing influence on songwriting in this entire thing, because you go to anyone, and I'm talking, like Coe, Parker, all the way to guys like Hayes Carl and Radney Foster. When you talk about songwriters, his name is always there, no matter who you're talking to.
Damn scary.
Yeah, I agree. And if we're ranking solid humans, I'll put Walt Wilkins on that top 20 list as well. But
yes, absolutely.
I got to see him and shake his hand at Larry Joe Taylor last year. That was bucket list for me. And I'm just one of my obsessions is a good quiet Walt Wilkins song on a late night. So
absolutely.
So we'll go to the 4 seed. And this was a late entry for me. I had somebody else here, and then Dalton Domino came out and said that he had a new CD come out, and he had not retired. So
I loved the misconception of that. A lot of people were like, "Oh, he's off tour, or he's going to quit doing this." I was like, I'm pretty sure he's just going to be off the road for a while.
Yeah, I posted on Hello Texas that it was discouraging news, but in private, I'm like, yeah, I don't think this is the big earth-shattering retirement that we all I don't know expect, but one of my favorites. I mentioned Dalton just about every conversation that I have about music. I know Quayde, you know Dalton well. He is going up against a good friend of mine, a local here in the Central Texas area, Brandon Ryder. That's another one of those matchups that I wish I had separated them out, and it just felt that way because I want to see both of those guys go really far in there. Brandon's one of those that writes how he feels. All his songs feel like he's writing about the moment that he wrote the song, and I just have always been a huge Brandon Ryder fan.
Well, it's cool. Like with Brandon Ryder especially, is like I came into this about 5 years ago, like this whole Texas scene, and he had already had some traction. And I really didn't know who he was. And then I think he had some medical problems. Am I correct?
Yeah. Long time medical problems.
Yeah, and he had to like take a step back, and he's making a resurgence now, it's been really, really cool to see like him taking kind of a different approach to the scene. But like with Dalton, that's my bread and butter right there. Like he kind of started getting traction outside of Lubbock the same time I started doing this, and I can't say enough good things about Dalton, and especially like with Brandon too, is like everyone that knows him, I personally don't, but they say the same things like, man, top-notch human, great songwriter, things like that. So as you were saying, like with this matchup, it's tough to see, but I'm also really, really interested to see who the fans would call the songwriter out of these two, because they're both top-notch.
Right. And Brandon was nice enough to invite me out to his house to do a photo shoot for his current single, I Felt Good Today. Made it to Billboard magazine, the photo, and it was a really cool moment for me. He brings his kids to Sheps every year, and they sing on stage with him. And I've basically watched his kids grow up, so I've got to know him and his family, and I'm always in his corner. It's a tough matchup, Dalton Domino, Brandon Ryder, because I want them both to go.
I'm definitely Team Dalton on this one. I know we don't have to do outputs now, but I wouldn't be in this scene if it wasn't for Dalton. We were
sure.
Me, him, Cleto, Randall, Benton Leachman, Red Shahan. We were all playing, writing, singing around the same time there the Monday nights at Blue Light, and I quit playing and writing to sell merch and tour manage for Dalton, and that's really kind of I give my credit to getting into the scene that way. But Brandon Ryder, at least for me, is one of those iconic voices that especially when I got into radio, when I got to dig into the tracks and we had the albums in the studio and I get to go back and listen, like, dude brings heat. And I've got to meet him in passing. I don't really know Brandon Ryder as a person, but yeah, from what I've seen everywhere, absolutely stand-up dude, killer songwriter, love his sound. But I'm calling my bias on this one. I love my boy DD, so there's my 2 cents on that one. I've stayed quiet because I didn't want to interrupt.
No, I got you. I knew that when I put Dalton on, and then after I talked to you last night, I'm like, well, I know your pass with Domino. So all right, let's move on. The 3 seed. Big time, Radney Foster. one of my top 2 songwriters of all time, easy. Another quality human. And then he's going up against the play-in game, which is, this one's huge for me. John Bauman against Jason Eady in the play-in game for the first round. I was watching Jason Eady just yesterday or the day before do a Q&A session online, and he was asked who his favorite current songwriter was, and one of the names he mentioned was John Bauman. And I had already stuck this in the thing, and I thought that was great. Yeah. I know both these guys. John is one of the best new songwriters on the scene. Jason is solid. I don't know who's going to take this one.
I'm going to throw a little 806 bias there as well. Bauman went to school at South Plains. I went to school at South Plains. They all lived in Lubbock.
Right.
And I definitely see Bauman as the Christopherson type of the panhandlers.
Yeah.
I mean, not to give everybody a title in there. I mean, I guess they are an equivalent of the highwaymen,
Yeah.
But if you're going to give that gut punch songwriter type to that team, I definitely would give it to Bauman there. And Edie being a Lubbock guy too,
Yeah.
But that's
absolutely.
it's Jason Edie. Dude's a legend. He's in my top 5 of all time. So
yeah,
for me, like when you showed this one, it's kind of like if you think back, like I'm a huge NBA sports fan, so it's kind of like a 96 Bulls getting ready to come up playing against the end of Magic Johnson's Lakers. It's the greatest of the great in both of these sides of the young guy versus the established, but they're both established if we really think about it.
Right.
And I got to admit here that it would have been real easy to have the play-in game as the 8 seed against the 1 seed. But just like the NCAA, I tried to mix it up a little bit, and I kind of found the close streams that these guys are kind of close on the streams on Spotify. So that's why they got matched up here. And I just thought that Bauman Edie is a great matchup for the first round. Either one of them could win the whole dang thing, I think. But yeah, that's
wait, is
that's
Jason Edie? Why am I thinking Joe Ely? This is my life. Ugh.
Well, they're both awesome, and I'll be honest.
I can barely see it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. My bad.
That's all right. Yeah. Joe Ely did not make the bracket, and I'll explain why. I tried to keep it a little bit more red dirt. Joe Ely.
Many of these. Let's blame it on that right now.
That's all right. Look if Tim, and by the way, Tim's not here. He's doing some church stuff. He's busy doing a whole bunch of other things.
Oh, it is Sunday, huh?
Yeah, it's Sunday.
Sorry, I've been on quarantine time.
Tim knows nothing about brackets, but he knows everything about these guys we're talking about. All right, so sharing the screen again. Let's go on to the 2 seed, Bart Crow, and this is another one I struggled with whether he should be as a songwriter or as in one of the other brackets. Decided to put him here because he's a solid 2 seed. However you look at it, he's got some great songs. I know him more for his performance, his voice than I do for his songwriting, but 6 or 7 of his songs put him in the number 2 spot here, I think. And then he's going up against the 7 seed in my sleeper of the whole tournament, which is my favorite songwriter of all time. The reason that I listen to this music to begin with, Bruce. And he doesn't have a big following on Spotify because he's more known for his songwriter and producing everybody else's music.
He doesn't have a big following on Spotify because he's written every other song that has a big following on Spotify.
I agree with that. So putting him here, we'll see what happens. And I also think the second round of a possible Bruce Robinson, Rodney Foster, those are my 2 favorite songwriters. Dalton Domino, Walt Wilkins are my other 2 if we're going to rank them. We'll see what happens. But, yeah, I thought that was a pretty good matchup with Bart Crow Bruce right there. Yeah, that's all I got there.
Hell yeah.
But anybody y'all see? I think Domino. I think maybe Radney have chances just on depending on who votes. Let's put it that way.
You know, I'm really glad that I'm going to go ahead and tell people to break down. You know, you gave me a bracket and you sent me that bracket first.
Yeah. And
I'm glad I had that before I got to look at everything else, because first and foremost, I became tragically overwhelmed.
Think how I feel.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 3 days.
I'm glad somebody like you is doing this, because I could not. Like, the scene deserves this, and I could not deliver.
Look, there are a lot of mistakes in here. I will give everybody that. Even I think that I'm an idiot for putting people in some of the places they are.
I hope this opens the door for people to do their own brackets, even if it's in the fucking Twitter comments. You know,
absolutely.
The F-bomb. But like, I hope people enjoy it, man.
We've got the ladies and the tramps done, so we are 1/4 of the way done. So let's go to Region 2, which is big rotation. These are some of the biggest acts in music, and I decided not to put the biggest rock act up against the biggest country act, so I divided it out in two. This is what kind of started the 8 categories, because the 1 seed and the 2 seed are pretty powerful, or the 1 seed in both of these are pretty powerful. So we'll start with the 1 seed in country, which is Cody Johnson. Probably the #1 seed in the entire tournament as far as Spotify monthly listeners go. And he's going up against one of my favorite people, Mason Lively. If y'all haven't seen Mason's band and Mason play, it's just a matter of time before he's going from an 8 seed up into a 2 or 3 seed. Yeah. He's got the stuff. His guitar player, Carson, is one of the best in the scene. Great music, great songs, and great to see live. Don't know how he's going to match up against Cody, but I don't think anybody else in this whole bracket matches up against Cody and comes out alive. I think Cody will bring the fans. I hope we have fans to vote.
I mean, that's kind of the power of being the number one seat. You know,
right.
you kind of have that oh shit factor.
No, that was it. It's the fact of being like the 1 seed in the tournament, the Duke or the North Carolina like 5-6 years ago is like you look at it and you go, wow, that could really be bad, but surprises do happen.
Yeah, we'll look back at this video in 5 years and say, man, can you believe Mason Lively was an 8 seed?
Yep.
All right, go. This is one of my favorite matchups. #4 seed William Clark Green against his bandmate Pleto with Flatland Calvary. This is just how the ball dropped. Go ahead, Andrew.
This is like this matchup here, like
this is the slugfest you hate to watch.
Yeah, if this was that like an actual thing, like I said, like if you were to relate it to a sports tournament, this is the one everyone watches. Whichever of these goes on, you continue to watch those games, but this is the one where it's like the most evenly matched. They've started at the same time. They're both Lubbock-based bands. Well, now different places, but they're both from Lubbock, made their mark there. It's going to be difficult to watch this one go, and whichever one ends up going out on top, it's going to be cool to see. But I have my pick. I think Flatland will probably take it if it's fan votes, but it's awesome. It is a great matchup per se, no matter what way you cut it.
Yeah, that's a hard one for me to cut, champ. I don't. Yikes!
And look, all 9 of these groups in this category are huge. So I thought about moving it. I'm like, oh, I can't put. Well, when I started moving things around, I'm like, you know what?
I mean, this is the fight you have to have happen, though. Like, I mean, I hate to see this together, but like, this is the one that has to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and not that there has to be a winner, that this is some sort of competition, but like, if anything, like, you have to put a slugfest in here because you have to have a slugfest, and this is it. Yeah. Like from a combat perspective, you know, I'm really big into boxing and MMA and jiu-jitsu and shit like that. I boxed for a while, and this is that oh shit fight of the night, you know.
Yeah. And this is what the Spotify streams did for me. I would have probably moved this around if it was just me figuring out how to lay this out. And they're real similar. And they belong as the 4 and 5. If it was a 3 and 6, maybe a little bit different, but they're neck and neck. It's gonna be hard to pick, and that's the way a 4 or 5 should be.
Exactly.
All right, let's power on. Number 3, the megastar Parker McCollum
It's
against
been a hell of a year.
the new guy on the scene, Tristan Merez. And Tristan's got a bigger following than I expected on Spotify to jump to the number 6.
Yeah.
It's totally deserved, and I think this one's interesting. I think Parker has a huge following, but I'm happy to see the Tristan fans come in and see what we do there.
Agreed. I'm wearing a Tristan hat right now, so good.
That's right.
That's one of those matchups where it's like it's pretty easy to see who's going to win based on fan votes. If fans were to come out and really vote on it, it would be a Parker. But like you were saying about like the last section of the bracket we did, where in 5-6 years you're going to look back at that and go, I personally think, wow, Tristan's a 6, and because he has blown up so fast in this. Like he has made his mark, and it's been cool to see. But like this is one of those matchups where it's like, all right, I think I know who's going to win, but you look back on it and you're going to be like, wow, now that'd be a knockdown like the flat-landed Will thing.
Yeah,
well,
I'm gonna throw my bias in here. Michael Mode plays bass for Tristan Merez, and Michael Mode is my favorite human on the planet. He's my best friend.
One of mine too.
And so him and Ox Martin out of Lubbock, they're my best friends on the whole planet. So I'm gonna throw my extra love that direction. But yeah, Tristan's a stand-up dude. Obviously, I've got the merch. But yeah, dude. I like y'all said, I think it's going to be fun to look back in a couple of years and be like, oh yeah, I remember when Tristan was a 6.
Yeah. And I think it's just a 1 or 2 years for Tristan. He's on that rocket ship right now, I think. All right, we'll move on to number 2. Another huge name in music, Cody Jinks, and he is going up against the play-in game, which is Josh Grider and Drew Fish. And I got to admit, I'm late to the Drew Fish bandwagon, but the last 3 or 4 months, I saw him in Waco last year and got to listen to his stuff, and he's a regular on my playlist. So, and it's a tough matchup for me. I think Cody will either bring a ton of fans and win this thing, or I think there's some Hello Texas fans that are Tristan Merez fans and Michael Mode fans that may carry on, and some Parker McCollum fans. So we'll see how that falls out down the road.
Yeah, this is a pretty heavy hitting bracket, man. I'm glad this isn't the one you assigned me.
Well, when we're going to start doing this, I was going to have just you do just one of the brackets, and then we decided to just do all this at the same time.
Right.
So we got that one done. So we'll go on to the second part of the bracket, which is big rotation rock. And this other one is probably the second seed in the whole bracket, which is Whiskey Myers, one of my favorites. And they are going up in a play-in game with Prophets and Outlaws and Shay Abshire. And I struggled with Shay here on where to put him, because he's another one that I've recently found and am a fan of. And Prophets and Outlaws, I don't know how you categorize them as anything.
Texas Soul, man. I mean, not to even categorize that, but like Prophets and Outlaws, Josh Weathers, Zach Wilkerson, Eric Willis, like that's, even Leon Bridges, like it's, Shay Abshire, it's that all kind of like Texas Soul, man. That's
and
quite things, trademark stamp right there.
All those names you just listed were in consideration and just didn't make the cut. But and there's some of my bias in there, because if I had more time, we'd make this 128 teams and there would be nobody cut out of here.
We could do this for all of quarantine.
Yeah, that's right. And we might do another one when this is done. We'll see how it goes.
I'm for it.
I'm down. I ain't got nothing better to do.
That's right. We'll go on to number 4 seed, Giovanni and the Hired Guns. They are another one that's rocketing up the playlist here, and they're going up against one of my favorites, Reed Southall. This is a good matchup. Again, the 4 and 5 matchups are really tough. I think these guys will be fans of each other. I don't know that they are, but I'm sure
they are.
Yeah, I hope there's some rivalry going on there and they get into it a little bit, because I love both these bands, and I'll be sad to see one of them not win. But same with the 4 and 5 matchup and the other two that we just went through.
Yeah, I think this entire bracket, like, there's a big L to take at every turn, because like it was established when we started here. Like, we've all kind of been here for a little bit, like, I don't consider myself grandfathered in. I'm not a badass or anything like that. But, like, I've got to rub elbows with a lot of these guys. We caught a lot of shows, and we've got all mutuals. At least to know somebody in somebody's band, through all about all this. And
Right.
I didn't see anybody not, progress.
Yeah, and as we go through the next couple brackets, it gets harder and harder. I mean,
It does. It really does.
This one's tough because these are the top of this bracket is the big guns. I basically separated the big guns out, so it wasn't just all the big guns in the final four. I wanted the ladies to have one, the songwriters. I want the final 8 to be 8 of a good mix. This is why all this happened. We'll go on to the number 3. Sam Riggs, one of my favorites, with Bo Bolfing as a guitar player there. And another one that I thought it may be a little underranked here, Colby Cooper. Down here,
I think he's a sleeper, man.
Yeah, I do too. I was actually supposed to go shoot him at South by Southwest the first day, and I canceled it 2 days before. And I was really looking forward to meeting him and shooting him.
He's awesome. He's a 20-year-old kid who's man. He's really down to earth, and we say that about everyone, but he really is, and he's figuring it out as he goes, along with just blowing up really, really fast and opening spots for Coe and for Parker and for all of these guys. It's been great. I got to catch him a couple weeks ago at Rio Frio Fest. He opened up for Shane, and it was impressive. And he really, really knows how to capture that crowd. It's the college age. It's Coe's crowd. It's Parker's crowd. He knows his fan base, and he really knows how to capture them. And he's a fantastic live performer. And that's my biggest thing with this matchup is both of their live performances stand up, because Sam Riggs is an amazing showman. He hangs with everyone.
He's won Entertainer of the Year for the Texas Red Dirt scene a couple of years now, hadn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if he did this last year or not. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to that, but I do know that he's won a couple times. So, I mean, I think that speaks for himself. And then there was the flaming LJT guitar incident.
I don't talk about that.
Yeah, well, and Led Zeppelin threw some TVs out of some hotel windows, man. Everybody wants to be a rock star until it's time to do rock star stuff, man. And whatever bridges were burned along with that guitar were their own bridges to burn. But
Good way to put it.
But for showmanship alone, it's hardcore.
Yeah, that's a good matchup. That's one of my favorite 3 and 6 matchups with the whole thing. And then they'll go on to face the winner of the 2-7 matchup, which sang Coe Wetzel. Which if Whiskey Myers wasn't there, I think they would. They're right there with Whiskey Myers, in my opinion. Is playing one of my favorite people on the planet, Austin Meade.
Oh, Meade, you're right, man.
You're right here.
Yeah, I got my all. Oh, I can't even get it off of here. I got my all access Austin Meade pass right here. I don't get to go see him as much as I want to, but his new stuff is just great. He's another one that we'll be talking in a couple years about him climbing up to being a 2 or 1 seed, I think.
Yeah. But it's even cool to see him. I was lucky enough. I believe he's my second podcast I did ever.
Yeah, I think so.
With the Quayde Things podcast, I had a little chump change podcast for a couple of months before I got into radio, just to see if I could do something with it. And it's buried deep in YouTube. If you can find it, God bless you. But no, I was lucky enough to have Meade as like my second podcast, and it's one of those I've been trying. We just haven't been able to make it work out. But I've been trying to get him back as a repeat on my podcast. there's a whole lot more to talk about, man. There's a whole lot of cool stuff that's happened for him. There's a lot of cool things in the work for him since was it 2.5 years ago, some shit like that when I did that. So
one thing about
I'm pumped for him, man. He's like Colby Cooper in this one, man. He's one of those sleepers, and like Tristan Mares in the other category where it's gonna be like, oh, I remember when he was a 6 kind of deal. Like we're gonna see him on the rise, man.
I've gotten real close to Austin over the past few years. I've done a lot with him. I went out with them for a while, couple runs, and they're great dudes. And Austin has some amazing stuff coming, music-wise. It is so good, and it's different, and it is going to blow everyone away.
Can you say where he's recording, or is that private right now?
I don't think
it's private.
I don't think it's been announced.
One thing about Austin is he's been the most supportive of just about all the artists back when I was a nobody, and he was like trying to get me into Steamboat. I mean, long time ago, and I'm an old guy and got a family and can't take off a week to go to Steamboat ever. But he was one of those guys that really believed in me, and I've always appreciated about that. And then, like you, Andrew, he hustles to get better every single time he plays. And every album is better than his last one, and his first one is one of my favorites ever. So I'll always pull for Austin. All right, we are halfway done. Let's share that again. Bang.
Good run, guys. Good run. Halftime.
Do you need a break?
No. Okay. I'm exaggerating.
We'll go ahead and start. The modern versus traditional, and some of these could be in heavy rotation category. Some of these could be in our next region. Some of them could be in songwriter. But this is just kind of the other, and I just tried to mix it up a little bit. We'll start with the modern Red Dirt, somebody that I have been obsessed with for the last 48 hours, which is Cody West as the #1 seed.
Yeah, dude, that new record is freaking pumping right now, dude. And
even my wife likes it, and she doesn't like Red Dirt, but she likes rock, and she's like,
sure.
Well, she's the heavy metal person in the family.
Fair. That was not a stab. It's just I was not expecting that.
And then they're going up against the Dirty River Boys, which are here because they're one of those others that are hard to categorize. I think they're not really rock, they're not really country. They're Red Dirt, and
right.
When I point to what Red Dirt means, they're one of the bands I point to.
Well, and they're out of El Paso, Texas, as are the Morelands. Shout out to the Morelands. And Bree Bagwell's from Las Cruces. I was born in Las Cruces. I've got family that still live around there. I got a brother and a niece and what all live down that way. And there's plenty of red dirt along the Rio Grande, man. It's mostly red sand, but it's there. But yeah, DRB, man, they're absolutely killer.
Yeah, I just
uncomparable energy.
Yeah,
absolutely,
dude.
I saw them with their old drummer. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. Travis. Playing out in the middle of the stage back when I was a young pup doing this, and I was blown away by. They were still young. There wasn't that many people in the crowd, but the people were there, had the biggest party that I've ever seen at a show to that point. And I was a fan since, and I followed them. And they're really good guys too. So
yeah, you can't not have the time of your life at a DRB concert, no matter if you're headlining or not. Like if you're not having the time of your life during their set, you're missing a step somewhere up and down your ladder, sir.
Yeah,
they do a lot of opening. They do a lot of opening for Shane, and the energy of them and Shane, it goes so well together because, like, literally from downbeat of Dirty River Boys all the way until the end of Shane's set or whichever, it's pure energy, and they are very
pimples and adrenaline, man.
They are hard to follow.
Yeah.
All right, let's power on. #4 seed, Kyle Park. Could be country, could be I mean, there's a lot of places I could have put Kyle. Going up against one of my favorites. I've only seen him once, but Red Shahan. If Tim were here, Tim would go off on how much he loves Red Shahan. So.
He is so good.
I care for coyotes. Sure.
Yeah.
First album, second album, when he eventually produced his 30th album, he is. I would have put him in the songwriter category.
Yeah.
Andrew, have you listened to any of the old Red and the Vitals?
Fantastic.
Stuff?
It's good.
When I interviewed, when Tim and I interviewed Mode, he brought up Red and the Vitals. Dude, I
watched that and listening to them.
Yeah.
Dude, I think I'd maybe played 7 or 8 times at Blue Light Monday night. You know, again, I was trash. I will never claim to be a singer-songwriter or anything like that. I'm not a performer. That's not what I do. I just thought I could at the time. And Blue Light was gracious enough to give me that presence. But I'd maybe seen Red play at Blue Light 4 or 5 times. And I'd only played maybe 6 or 7 times at that point. And then there was the Red and the Vitals farewell show. And it was his last show with the band of Red and the Vitals. I mean, I was blessed to be a part of it when it was going on in Lubbock, but I was still late to that party. But then when Red came out with all of his solo shit, man, that just relit the Red Shahan fire in Lubbock. Red actually used to bounce at Blue Light. He was the first person to ask me to leave the bar.
Really?
Drunk one night.
That is a badge of honor.
Shocker.
All right,
it was a good time. It's a good time. Oh, and before anybody else talks about it, there was also a night at David, back when David Wild was doing his singer-songwriter nights, or his Sunday Funday nights in the backyard of his old house there off of Quaker. It's like 32nd and Quaker. And me and Caleb Alaman both got brands on our posterior that are big R's for Red Shahan. And we got lifetime entry to all the shows. So
nice.
2013 was a hell of a year. I think it was 13. I don't remember.
That's the kind of devotion that artists need right there, is to have.
Dude, if you can't get brands and tattoos, like shout out to like my homegirl Crystal Clark. She's one of the biggest fans, biggest supporters of this scene through and through. She's got Macaulay Shine tattoos. She's got Casey Donahue tattoos. She's got 6 Market Boulevard tattoo. Like, I mean, if you can't, I mean, you can put whatever you want in your Facebook bio, but if you're about it, put it on your skin, dog.
Yeah. Come on, Andrew. Where's your tattoo, Andrew?
Graham tattoo. You know, being in the scene, you know, you can't fangirl like that, man. You can't. But I did. I got my one, and I did it. So there you go.
Back to Sharon. Let's go on to the 3 seed versus the 6 seed. Number 3, a band that one of us may have heard of, Shane Smith and the Saints, versus a play-in game, which is one of my favorite matchups, and I'll explain in a second. Grant Gilbert versus Chris Colston.
I think Colston might be it. And speaking all by side, I think Colston and his fans might be.
Let me grab my pen. I got to do my whole bracket over. Give me a second.
I think Colston might be a sleeper to honestly take out Shane, because he's got some fans, and it's so noticeable. But I still got to pick the paycheck. I'm going with Shane Smith.
Well, Grant actually has more Facebook or Spotify followers than Chris, but got to meet Chris the last couple times at Coke Fest. I owe Grant a huge apology. I was talking to one of his band members going through the photos, and Grant came up and said, "Hey, did you get some good photos?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, great." I didn't know it was him because he didn't have his hat on, and then I couldn't find him, and so for 2 years. For 2 years, I feel like I blew off Grant Gilbert, and I feel so bad about it that I want to tell him personally. But Grant, if you're watching, I didn't know it was you, or I would have said, yes, I got photos here, want to see. But so that's my Grant Gilbert story out in the open now. But
awesome.
Yeah, look, without you here, Andrew, Shane Smith is one of those bands that's like no other in this bracket. Just a sound that doesn't compare to anybody else, and it's that 5-part harmony sometimes that they do that reminds me of the Eagles, which is the best compliment that I can give them. And everybody on that stage is a top-notch musician, and I don't think that they have the following that they're going to have soon. I think they're going to be a number 1 seed in any one of these brackets just soon. I don't know why they're not, to be honest with you.
You know, Shane Smith in the Saints, you know, like we said earlier, it's kind of like the Red Shahan earlier, you know, with the DRB and everything. Like it's one of those sets where like it's instant, you know, goose pimples. It's instant high energy, the harmonies, the vibe of all everybody's a standalone is an incredible musician and they play together well. And then I'm going to throw my bias in there as well. You know, Grant Gilbert, another 806 guy, had him on the podcast. Love Grant. You know, when I was on the air with the Red Dirt Rebel, he was every time I needed somebody at a live show, every time I wanted to showcase a local artist, you know, he was one of the first people I'd call because he was hungry, because he was working, because he busted his ass. And it's cool to see him go where he's at, and I see a bright future for him and for Chris Colston.
Yeah, and they're so similar in my mind that this is the perfect play-in game. I mean, either one of them can win this, and they're the same type of artist, I think. Both
I would
great
like to
guys.
see them on the same bill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or at least more often, because I'm sure they've played together. If they haven't, somebody needs to fucking set that up. But with the Shane Smith deal, you know, my little bias there is they're just so hardworking. You know, of course, Andrew, you work for them. I'm going to show my love there as well. But when their bus burnt down, they made the show, my boy Ox, backlined, and then they've turned around and shown Ox all the love in the world for that. You know, we talked about this before the recording started. Ox got to open up for Shane and the boys down there at Green Hall, and that to give Ox that opportunity, just for the love I have for Ox, without literally crying in front of you guys, man, that's just one of those deals that my heart's bleeding in my chest right now because I'm so overwhelmed with the love. And of course, having Shane on the podcast too. I just got out of being detained by the Steamboat Police Department when I got my podcast with Shane, so that was fun.
Andrew, anything to say about who you think's going to win this matchup?
I said it. I really do think it's going to be Shane, but Chris, I think Chris, like if it was like not fan voted, if it was industry voted, which I'd love to see that. I'd love to see like an industry voted of this exact bracket to see what everyone in these thinks, because I really do think Chris could give us Saints a run for our money, but I'm still going to stick with Shane on that one just because of the seating and because of the size of our fans. We got a lot of them, and they're really cool.
God, I hope we have some fans that vote.
if you don't vote, you're what's wrong with America.
Right.
I'm going to step out on that limb. I have no problem being the heel.
It's why we're all going to get it.
No,
we're all going to get the virus.
Dude, my girlfriend travels constantly. She was in 4 planes in 2 days a week ago. That's why my work made me quarantine, which I'm cool with. I'm not showing symptoms. But if anybody's going to be exposed to the Rona right now, it's me. So I'm cool with it. That's why I've been quarantined. That's why I've been doing my shit right. But a quick subject change. I don't mean to sidetrack on this, I promise. But one of my major sponsors with the Quayde Things podcast is a company called Ironclad Custom Services, and they do screen printing, laser engraving, koozies, all your merchandising badassery needs. And it is owned and run by a dude, my boy named Paul Brown. He is a captain for the Houston Fire Department. He's been a first responder during all of this shit, and has gone above and beyond and has continued to go above and beyond for, I think he's 19 years into the force over down there now. And he is crawling out of being infected with COVID. So he came positive, and I mean, it didn't kill him. He's on the up and up, but it's shit's real.
It's
so
crazy.
It comes close. That's literally a subsidiary of a partner, a loved one of mine that's affected. So all this shit going on, just to throw a little bit of seriousness in here. Wash your hands. Don't buy all the toilet paper. Be nice to old people and pray for your first responders. That's all I'm saying about
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
Really, truly, hats off to everyone that's doing anything, man. My mom is she sews. She's a seamstress, as you say, and we've been at our house making masks for first responders and people who have jobs where they can't just take off. They have to go into other people's houses to help them, like plumbers and electricians and all those people.
Yeah.
Those people are the reason that this country keeps moving.
Yeah.
The people who can't take off of work because they have to help you and me.
Right.
It is beyond any words. Besides a simple thank you is all I can muster. It really is fantastic, and it's a pleasure and an honor to watch these people continue their jobs and be a lot braver than I ever could be.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm.
All right,
All
back
right.
to the fun of the bracket. I'm glad we got that on.
Yeah. On to the end of the modern red dirt. Let's go to the 2 seed, which is Charlie Crockett. Another one I struggled with. Is he modern? Is he modern red dirt? He's different.
That motherfucker stepped out of a time machine, is what he is.
Right.
That
right.
dude and Leon Bridges both just stepped out of a time machine of love and funk and greatness and soul and brought it, man.
My big problem with Charlie Crockett on where to put him in the bracket was he's so traditional that he doesn't match the traditional country artist that I have down there.
Exactly. He's too old-timey for our old-timey.
Right. So, and he's going up against the 7 seed, which is one of my favorite live acts on the planet, Shiny Ribs. Another one I didn't know where to put. I like Shiny Ribs. Everything Shiny Ribs does, I'm a huge fan of. Charlie Crockett, I just saw him recently. God, he's such a great live performer. No matter what you think of Charlie Crockett on the album, go see him live, and it's such an entertaining show.
Here's a little piece of photographer know-how and a little insight to how we think. I think I can speak for Tim too. Is like, it's hard to enjoy a concert when we don't have a camera in front of our faces now.
Absolutely.
It's like I have
absolutely
such a hard time in not enjoying music. I love music. I listen to music all day. But going to a concert, because you just feel useless if you don't have a camera in your hands. There's only been 2 bands that I have seen since I started doing this where I was like, I would watch a full show and not feel left out at all. And that is one, the Mavericks, which blew me away that they were that much energy, but that was and Charlie Crockett. He is it's the most inviting and energetic show at the same time, where you're completely involved and you don't have a choice not to be. It's amazing.
I think that category comes down to a battle of energies, and I mean it like this. Charlie Crockett definitely brings you that old timey chills. For me, it brings back riding in a Jeep with my granddad. Being introduced to like Johnny Horton, listening to some old Delta blues, listening to some old jazz, shit like that. You know what I mean? Loving that. And then at the same time, I get the same vibes from Kevin Russell there, Shiny Ribs, because I remember what the Gourds were to me as a teenager. The Zydeco, the jazz, the Creole sound, the horn section brings you back to the big band my grandmother introduced me to when I was younger. And just to see them live, you get the chills watching Charlie Crockett, and you have to join the freaking conga line watching Shiny Ribs. Like that's another one of those, like that's kind of one of the slugfests in this category, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my 2 cents there.
I think Cody is the favorite, but Red Shahan, Shane Smith, Charlie Crockett, Shiny Ribs. I mean, anybody can take that. And so let's move on to the traditional side of it. Got halfway done, so I divided it up into red dirt, modern, and traditional, because some of these traditional artists are some that you put on when your parents are in the room. Mike Ryan, he's another one I struggled with, because I think he's traditional. I think he's one that can go into traditional country, but he could be modern. He could be heavy rotation. Probably should be heavy rotation. And he's going to go up against Jared Birmingham. To be honest, he belonged here by the strings, but he's biasly one of my favorites that doesn't get his due, versus Jesse Robb, who I just watched last night do a live stream and was blown away by Jesse Robb.
Dude is freaking great. I've had the privilege of having him on a couple of my live programs when I was on air with Red Dirt Rebel. And dude never failed to deliver. He's that dude is solid gold.
Yeah.
Jesse
I'm
Ralph
open
Jr. is
to it.
I still don't understand. There's a couple artists, him, Brett Hendricks,
Oh,
a
I
couple
love
other
Brett.
people. Like I don't
Yeah.
understand why they're not getting the traction right now. Like they've been here. Why aren't y'all streaming these dudes? Why aren't y'all going to see these guys live? And I mean, I guess maybe I'm a one-off. I don't know, but I think those are a lot of. I'm glad they're on this list because I personally believe you throw that name in whatever pile you want, it needs more credit. I'm not gonna lie here. I have not heard any Jared Birmingham stuff. I'm not being an a-holio here. I haven't. I'm sorry.
Right.
I've heard
And Jared's big down.
I'm really really sorry, guys, but
No, that's all right.
that's one of those, and especially since I had this category, I feel I really can't give this bracket that hardcore justice in my own
Sure.
mind. But I've seen the name. I've seen the name. I've heard it for a while. I just haven't seen him live, and I haven't heard anything that he's put up that I've listened to. So, to all the Jared Birmingham fans, I'm
No,
sorry
that's
I'm not at
fine.
the party. Please send me a link. I want to listen.
I will take care of you. Jared Birmingham's band, it's basically Cody Johnson's band now, literally. Joey
Oh
Pruski,
shit! Okay, that's
all
good.
those guys that are playing elsewhere all started with Jared Birmingham. Jared was bigger back a decade ago. Jared's played with some of the biggest names in music. He's one of those guys that I'd put up there right along, a Merle Haggard or a George Jones type legend, and nobody's really heard of him. And if you go to one of his shows, he brings 9 people. His guitar player is one of the best in the world, in my opinion. It's one of these, and he doesn't draw huge crowds, but he plays to the 2 people out front and the 50 people in the back playing beer, and he's grateful for it. He plays with his wife Jennifer, who he just got married to a few years ago. They've got 2 kids together, little babies. He could play or not play and probably be perfectly happy. He's when we're talking solid humans, he's another one of those that I'm super connected with Jared and love everything that he does, and I'll never miss a show.
Well, I even feel worse about being late to this party.
That's all right. No, I was late too. I was late too, and I tell people it's okay. Jared's not mad about it, but it's traditional country worth listening to. He's got a following down south where he's from, and he's on the Texas Walk of Fame down there. I mean, he's big down there. Okay, let's move on. I could talk about Jared Birmingham for an hour and be good. Number 4, John Wolf, another one that could be in heavy rotation here. It just kind of fell out this way. Going against another one that could be in heavy rotation, but I think belongs in traditional red dirt, Randall King.
Absolutely, man.
I'm on the record as saying Randall King is going to be the number 1 seed of this thing in 2 years. Why he's not number 1 or 2 right now, it blows me away.
Couldn't agree more.
He, again, back to the bias deal. I've got a lot of old school, early tier, love with Randall King. You know what I mean? Him and Mode were roommates together. There was a time where Joey Bybee, he used to play drums for the Crooks, and then played with American Aquarium for a little while. He played with Randall and Dalton because essentially Randall and Dalton shared the same band. And Brett Brock, who now plays with John Wolf, used to play with Sam Riggs.
The small world.
But it was Brett Brock, Michael Mode, and Joey Bybee, where essentially they were, Dalton's band on Thursday and Randall's band on Friday, back and forth for a while. So there's so much intertwining, like inner family love there, man. That Randall and I were essentially considered roommates for a little while too. After that, I've been on the road with him off and on for a little while. Still one of my freaking boys. His mama texted me for Christmas. Shout out to Deidre. Love you. Deidre and Mark. They're awesome. And George, I mean, it's to the point where Garth Brooks is paying attention to Randall King. And, I understand that Bob Wills is still the king, and we'll always have George Strait, and he's the king in his own right. But I believe that Randall King is a very quick prince line in that lineage. in due time.
Yep.
But I think he's well on his way there. So if I'm going to throw my 806 bias, my genuine bias in that category, it's going right behind Randall King.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've said. Go ahead, Andrew. You go ahead.
I'm with you on that one, man. I've known Randall for a really long time, playing literally to know people. And it's been consistent, and he gets better every single time you see him.
Every damn time, and it's not
He-
about the leaps and bounds, but you notice.
Not even just the show, but even in the way he delivers songs that he's had recorded for 10 years. It's
the way he interacts with people at the merch booth after, like that dude is professional through and through, and
Yep.
It's one of those things you can't. You have to build that, and you have to build that as a person. Randall built that. Randall took that initiative, used that maturity, and made that. Randall King for president, 2020.
And I've always said that if this was a stock market and you want to buy low and sell high, put everything on Randall King, because I think he has the potential to be bigger than Cody Johnson, to be another George Strait. I won't say the next George Strait, but
but that same
level.
sort of reverence.
Right. That everybody in America should know his name just by the way he performs, his songwriting, the way he sings, his character, his family, his band. Everything about Randall King is the total package.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on his band now. His band now is a bunch of freaking slaughterhouse hands, dude.
Right. They're professional. They're doing it the right way. And what you see on stage, what you see off stage, that's Randall. I mean, I've talked to him off stage a few times. So to the 3-6 matchup, we got the 3 seed, Curtis Grimes. I was actually surprised that he was that high Spotify. Not that he didn't deserve it. He's great. And he's going against one of my favorite traditional Red Dirt acts, Mike and the Moon Pies.
Oh man,
this is a
dude.
tough
I think in this seat thus far, Mike and the Moon Pies is our number one equivalent. You know, earlier where we said Cody Johnson obviously is our bracket number 1 seat, overall bracket. I think in this bracket, they may be number 6 on the charts, but I think if you talk to any fan, if you talk to any aficionado, if you talk to people in the bands listed so far, Mike and the Moon Pies are just one of those untouchable acts.
100%. If you even with like if we talk festivals, they're everywhere. They are the most in-demand band in this scene.
Yep.
Like they've made their mark on Steamboat. I was there this past year. They were They were some of the most attended shows. And they didn't play the big tent. They didn't play the Grand Ballroom. They played the small ones, but they packed it, and people really wanted to go see them. And I mean, the same way with like Mile Zero Fest out in Florida, they've taken over that festival. They're the the unofficial mascots of it.
Right.
It's that same like in the scene, out of the scene, whether you're diehard or you're just kind of showing. They're the band you know. And that's because they've made amazing music that Rolling Stones picked up. I mean, Saving Country Music's all up in our scene.
I was about to say that, man. Good.
And they're it. And I think they will continue to be it for as long as they want to.
Yeah, they are cheap silver. They are. I mean, the album name speaks for itself. They are cheap silver and solid country gold. I don't believe they are the standard. I believe they are the level to surpass. I believe, back a few years ago, when Sturgill and Tyler were like the new big shit, and everybody's like, oh shit, Sturgill's the king of what country music could be. I remember when that was. I mean, even if it was for a couple of months, wherever you were at, like that was a big thing. I believe that has slowly rumbled through the underground with Mike and the Moon Pies. I believe they're just one of those all-around bands. They don't stick to just a 90s country twangy sound. They don't stick to just traditional shit. They're not rock and roll. They are all around what we need. And I'm glad that publishers and publications like Rolling Stone Country and such have taken notice, because they deserve the credit. I think people need a whole lot less Lick Bryan and a whole lot more Mike and the Moon Pies in their life. And I'm going to say that right there.
I want to be clear. Mike and the Moon Pies have 107,000 monthly listeners. Curtis Grimes has 265,000 listeners a month, which when I say shocked, I just didn't. He's actually more than my number 2 seed. I just dropped him down a little bit because for this category, I thought the number 2 is my most traditional country act that there is. But I agree. Mike and the Moon Pies is as red dirt country as you can get. If I point to anybody, there's 2 bands in this thing. I'm like, you want what you should be listening to. Mike and the Moon Pies. That's something I can listen to with my grandfather. And when you mentioned riding in the truck with your grandfather, that's one of those that my grandfather would say, "Hey, turn that up."
Yeah, absolutely. There's same sort of deal. My granddad, he's still alive, but he asked me all the time, "Well, who are you listening to? What are you listening to?" And I can't always tell him what I'm listening to. Not that he would judge me, but just like I know he'd listen to it and he'd be like, "Oh, I don't like that," and it's like, I don't want him to do that. But like, yeah, I've turned him on to Mike and the Moon Pies. I've turned him on to Randall King. I've turned him on to Tristan Mares. I've turned him on to, he didn't like him, but I tried to turn him on to Quaker City Nighthawks. And, I think they're another one of those bands that should have been in the rock and roll category earlier. It's just picking that out, but just solid country gold. When you want to just, I hate to use the terms red dirt and Texas country in this, but when you want to talk about just good freaking country music, man, and I think that's what this traditional category should be about. And that's just, taking the red dirt and the Texas out of it and just making it country without making it Nashville or pop, however you want to categorize that. And Mike and the Moon Pies take this list in my book.
Yeah, Curtis is big in the I guess the Christian country music. It's a huge following. So if the fans come out, Curtis deserves every vote that he gets. So it's an interesting matchup in my opinion.
Yeah, and I like Curtis Grimes. In fact, one of my favorite people in the world is a lady out of Goldthwaite, Texas. Her name's Laura Slaughter. Wanted to give her a little love here. She still is one of my number 1 fans on the podcast, but was when I was on the air with the Red Dirt Rebel. She never missed a morning to tell me hello and thank you and and request. And Curtis Grimes was always he is one of her favorite artists, and she always had a standing request for a Curtis Grimes song. And so that's kind of one of those deals. We, as much as we try to take emotional bias out of this, whether I do or don't like Curtis Grimes music, I do, for the record. I like Curtis Grimes music, but like no matter if I like him more or less than another artist, he will have that love in my heart because of the love I have for Laura, the connotation.
Right.
And like you said, Steve, with him being that Christian country thing, is like, I didn't catch him. I'll be honest, I don't listen to him. Not because I don't like him, just because I haven't, he doesn't show up in that pattern.
Right.
He's not on your Spotify Next suggested list kind of shit.
Because, I started this scene with Cody Canada and The Departed, and it's the opposite side of that. It's the difference. But I did catch him live once, and it was honest. It was a connection with. It was honest, and that's what I really do appreciate from him, is the honesty in the being true about your faith, but also doing it in a way that you can connect. And I think he's perfected that.
Right. So yeah, he totally deserves a spot here. If you've seen him live, you're right. Honesty in the show and believability of what he's singing is right there on top.
Yeah.
All right, and let's get to the final one on this. And this is one of my favorite matchups in the whole bracket. And when we're talking country, these two guys just played together on a live stream a couple nights ago. We got Josh Ward against Jake Worthington. And if we're talking twang voice, this is the matchup of all matchups.
This was my undercard fight in this. You know what I mean? That sleeper fight, or that fight of the night that people aren't expecting, no matter what the headliner is. This was that category slugfest in a way for me. One key that I held this category to is I'm not a great dancer, but my old lady is, and I enjoy dancing. And so what am I putting on in the kitchen when we're out at some random ass bar in Oklahoma City, when we're at a bar in Oklahoma, back in Texas, something comes on, what am I grabbing her by the belt loop and dragging her on the floor by? And fortunately and unfortunately, both of these artists were heavy on that list.
Yeah. The George Jones factor for me.
Yeah.
It really and truly is, can I hear George Jones and Merle Haggard in their music? And in Josh, I can, but Josh has blazed his own and created his own sound. But I kid you not, when you listen to Jake, it's right there. Like
it's old-timey. It's good old-timey.
I hear that. I hear the Merle and the George Jones and all of that classic country just built up in this kid, which is funny. He's older than I am, but I say this kid who hasn't.
How old is he, by the way? I don't remember.
He's young. He was on the Voice. He was 21 on the Voice, I think. All right, so we got the whole bracket in there. Quayde, I'm gonna let you talk about it. Who's gonna make the final 8 or the finals in each section, you think?
All right. Again, this is just my opinion. Don't y'all take it wrong. I just for the record, I'm a fan of all these bands. I love everybody in all these camps. I don't want to piss anybody off.
Sure.
Please don't tarnish any more of my reputation. Okay, please. But let's start off with the Cody West versus Dirty River Boys, man. Cody's new record is great. I love it. I've listened to it at least 3 times since it dropped. 48 hours ago ish.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love the Shake sessions that he did with my guys at Shake. Of course, they're the distributors of my podcast, so I've got my own bias there. I've had Cody on the podcast. So I should have every bias in that pocket. And I've approached Dirty River Boys a couple of times. We just haven't been able to make it line up right, have them on, but I still give the bracket to DRB. Just for longevity currently, the impact they had with their early music back when they had Travis, my El Paso, Las Cruces, a whole of America love. Want to throw that there. And the pure energy. I mean, again, if you're going to be hyped at a Cody West show, no doubt, but you're going to be straight up in the electricity with the Dirty River Boys show. And so that's what gives them that bracket for me. So that's what levels that one out.
Wow.
Next, we have Kyle Park and Red Shahan. And I love Kyle Park, man. I think Leaving Stephenville is definitely an all-time classic. And then he just did the music video for Rio, his newest single. I believe it's still his newest single. If he's put one out since then, I'm behind that curve.
Right.
But that was filmed on some friends of mine ranch back in New Mexico, out around Corona, New Mexico. And so all the topography in that music video is shit I've worked cows on, growing up as a ranch kid. So I've worked that ranch. And so it's really cool for me to see that and to have that there. But here's where I'm playing my Lubbock bias in this category. It goes straight to Red Shahan.
Before you do, let's talk about how much an underrated guitarist Kyle Park is.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
He can.
He can.
Oh no, dude slays. I mean, I'm not going to call him the Brad Paisley of our scene, but he is a highly underrated guitar player. You are correct.
Blew my mind. That was just my little side note that I forgot to mention when we were talking about it, but dude can shred.
He sure can.
I would like to see him. I mean, Rio was a great single, and I loved it. I think it's great. There needs to be some sort of resurgence around what he's doing, and I mean, I'm behind everything he's doing. I like it. I like what's going on, but I would like to see a new fire get lit there, and I believe that he has every capability of lighting that fire.
Very correct.
Especially since again, this is not a stab at Kyle Park. Nobody needs to take it that way. But with this whole Corona quarantine shit, I expect 90% of our scene to come out with a new fire under their ass.
Absolutely.
This is where everybody shuts in and writes and learns about themselves and works out.
Can you imagine?
And does stuff. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of artists that have been here for a while, that are established. That I'm not going to say are riding their breeze or anything like that, but if you're going to put it in a fucking overdrive, now's the time. Like, now is to put in the effort. Even if that project's doesn't come out for another year, now is when you start tuning that engine. And Kyle Park's one of those artists I would like to see that happen to, because I like Kyle Park, I really do. But hands down, this category goes to Red Shahan. I mean, even if he would have just done another Red and the Bottles album, and Men and Coyotes would have been completely different. Just if you go back and listen to that early Red and the Bottles work, it's impeccable. Dude's a killer songwriter. He's 6'4" and would be the first person you let hold your baby. But he's bounced me out of a bar. I've got a brand on my ass, but he makes me cry when he fucking goes, oh, ooh, 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 ooh. You know, at the end of the day, your boy cares for coyotes. So Red Shahan takes that category. Next, we go to Shane Smith versus Grant Gilbert and Chris Colston. I'm going to give Grant Gilbert the Chris Colston bracket just to round that bottom off.
Yep.
You know, and it's nothing against Chris Colston. You know, I love his music. I've got to see him live a few times, got to meet him. He's an awesome dude. But being a Lubbock cat, I've got to see Grant work from being a Texas Tech freshman, cut his teeth, bust his ass. You know, if I called him on 20 minutes notice to come be on air with me, he'd drop whatever he's doing and do it. You know, and that hunger is still persistent today. And I see him going places. So I would like, I'm going to give him that one. But that gives him Grant versus Shane. And really, I would just like to see Grant Gilbert and Shane Smith on the same card soon. I just want to be at that show. But Shane Smith takes that one. He's one of those all interview shows. If you've not been moved by a Shane Smith show, you weren't there.
Yep.
Plain and freaking simple. The love they've shown my boy. The fact that it was unasked, it was unprecedented. There's no money behind it. There's nothing like that. The fact that their bus burned down and they haven't missed a freaking beat, and they came back on it, and they've shown love and kept going. And Chase is still doing his detail business. Z is still a killer fucking skateboarder. Everybody's still doing their thing, like singular and together. Every member of Shane Smith and the Saints is impeccable. So they take that category there. Charlie Crockett versus Shiny Ribs. This was the hard one for me. This was that low-key slugfest in the top end of this bracket for me. Again, because Charlie Crockett's one of those dudes like it's the roaring 20s now, dude. I want to dress like Charlie Crockett. I want to sound like Charlie Crockett. I'd like dudes in there. You know what I mean? And he's had that. He's covering some great old hits that like I grew up on. That was old for my granddad kind of stuff. And I'm loving that. But the category still goes to Shiny Ribs, man, just for the pure fact that Kevin Russell is the man in charge of that project. The Gourds were a big part of me as a kid growing up in New Mexico. We didn't get a lot of we called it outlaw country because we didn't know Texas country or red dirt was a thing. But we'd get like a Kevin Fowler jam every once in a while. We get some Reckless Kelly, we get a little bit of this, get a little bit of that, but it wasn't a category its own. But a friend of mine turned me on to the Gourds with their Gin and Juice cover, and that solidified it for me. And Kevin Russell rounds that one out with the Shiny Ribs. So there's my round, the top half of my round one. Whew, that's long-winded. I'm going to shorten this one up. Promise. Now we go to the traditional.
You want to do traditional, or you want to finish the modern red dirt? You got Dirty River Boys, Red Shahan, Shane Smith, and Shiny Ribs.
Okay. Do we want to pull that one out?
Who do you want to go? Who do you want to go after that? We'll just finish out the modern.
Okay. Let's bracket this one out. Okay, I'm cool with that. So it's going to go down to DRB versus Red Shahan for that top bracket. And I, again, hometown love, like my Green Chili Boys to my DRB crew. But again, it still goes to Red Shahan, man. He's just one of those acts that is, I'm not going to say he's underrated because the people who know, but I could he should have Tyler Childers accreditation right now.
Yep.
I think Red Shahan should be on that level. I think he should be doing a lot of shit with Willie and Sturgill and, Jamie Johnson and Jinx and all of that crew. Like, I think Shahan needs that credit So he busts over Cody, or he busts over DRB in that bracket to go to my number 2 spot in the top bracket there. So then it comes down to Shiny Ribs and Shane Smith for my bottom bracket, and that is going to go to Shane Smith and the Saints. Because as much as I love a conga line, and I love all the vibe and the silly and the creativity of Shiny Ribs, man, you cannot beat the straight soul and harmonies. And, well, I mean, I hate to say this, but it was brought up earlier, the Eagles comparison of Shane Smith and the Saints. So it breaks down to Red versus Shane Smith and the Saints for my top bracket.
All right, let's wrap up our traditional.
Let's knock that one out. Where were we? Mike, we're
with Shane's. What were the final 2 for modern Red Dirt? Shane Smith and
Red Shahan.
Or Shahan, that's right. Who's the winner?
Shit, dog. That's the hardest. I'm still gonna have to go with Red, man. Just because I see the longevity and the continued success of Shane Smith and the Saints, in that Eagles aspect. Like even if they stop making music tomorrow, like they will forever be a legend and a standard and a standout in this scene. But I see Red Shahan eventually becoming very much so a Robert Earl Keen type, a Guy Clark type, that undersung creative hardcore abstract writer. And I don't think he's waiting until then to become that. I think he's doing it now. I think he's cutting that cloth right now, and he's preparing to put on that shirt, dog. So I'm going to give the top half of the bracket to Red Shahan.
Let's go to the traditional Red Dirt. We got Josh Ward. Let's start at the bottom. Mike Ryan and Jared Birmingham, Jesse Robb. You want to go through it, Quay? Do you want Andrew to take it?
Yeah, man, I'll go ahead and go through it, man. I give it to Mike Ryan.
Okay.
Of course, he's got Sam Jones and Chase Francis, both formerly of Dalton Domino, that are killing in his band right now. Before then, he also had a dude named Ryan Summers, who's also a Lubbock cat, was one of the founding members of Dolly Shine. But I'm constantly on a red-eye flight. So Mike Ryan takes that one for me. Moving on up the bracket, we've got Randall King and John Wolfe. Again, we talked about Brett Brock, who plays guitar for John Wolfe, and I love John Wolfe. I see him again as definitely a standard. Like, you can't talk about being traditional in this scene without talking about John Wolfe. But Randall King, he is the standard in my mind of traditional honky-tonk 90s, 80s, old school country in our Texas Red Dirt incarnation of that. Randall King is our ice cutter, is our icebreaker on there. So Randall takes that bracket. Up from there, I believe we already did the Josh Ward and Moon Pies take the top 2 brackets, correct?
Yeah. We talked about that during the thing, during the reveal.
Right, and Moon Pies pull that one out. On the top, Josh Ward is great. But the Moon Pies, like we were saying earlier, they're untouchable right now. When it comes to the bottom bracket, we've got Randall King versus Mike Ryan, and I'm still gonna have to give that one to Randall King, just for the fact that same deal as I said earlier with the Red Shahan. That dude has longevity. I see us talking about Randall King to our grandkids. And not just because your grandpappy listened to this, but because that dude is still relevant and doing shit at that time. Not that the other person won't, not that Mike Ryan doesn't have it in him. I just think that Randall King has that it factor.
Yeah, I agree.
So it comes down to Randall and the Moon Pies, dude, in that bottom category. And I give it to Mike and the Moon Pies.
Wow. I'd give it. Oh, okay.
I know that's the big upset, and I love Randall. This is one of those, like, I hate to say this out loud because, like, I'm gonna get texts from drummers about this. You know what I mean?
Oh, and that's just it though. What criteria?
Like for real, like people are gonna be like, "Real dog, you're gonna be sleeping on us." But like, fuck, man, Mike and the Moon Pies they're just killing it. You know what I mean? They're I hate to lump people together, but like Mike and the Moon Pies and Whiskey Myers are going to kind of essentially fill that Leonard Skinner void for our generation. You know, we're going to be able to. These are the mega groups. I'm not going to say super groups because they're not a collaboration of people, you know, like a Highwomen or a Panhandlers deal, but they are a mega group. To where, like no ifs, ands, or asses, I see Whiskey Myers as our modern day Leonard Skinner. And if you disagree with me, I'll fight you.
I agree.
But if we're gonna country that shit, I see Mike and the Moon Pies in that same category. And that's why I give them the edge over Randall King in this. So that puts it down to traditional being Mike and the Moon Pies versus the top half of the bracket, our modern being Red Shahan, Red versus Mike and the Moon Pies. Before I give my final, I'm gonna ask you guys to divvy that out. What do y'all think? Who takes it, Mike or Red?
Mike.
Out of those two, look, if Red makes it that far, I think Red. But I think, if Red's got the votes to make it to the finals, I think Red takes that. But I think, you know, odds on Mike makes it there. Out of those two.
So Steve, you say Red. Andrew?
Man, I'm going to go Mike and the Moon Pies all the way. It sucks just because I love Red Shahan. It's a lyrical genius. But Mike and the Moon Pies got the mojo right now. They have the backing of publications. They have new fans, old fans, young fans. They have it all.
Let me say, if Red Shahan and Mike and the Moon Pies are in the finals, I will be thrilled because that means that people came out and voted for this, and that's going to be cool.
Like I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm booty hurt that I like of all of the comparisons. Like as deep as we want to go into this, Red Shahan and Mike and the Moon Pies, I would much rather see them on the same bill than who fucking progresses. Like let's I want to be drunk with both of you at that show. Let's go see Mike and the Moon Pies and Red Shahan over at Green Hall next Saturday. What do you think? Tell me that would be the greatest show ever.
I'll buy the tickets. I'll buy the tickets for all of us for that. So
okay, I'll buy first.
I will buy you both a beer and not have one myself. Which realistically means I'm going to hand y'all some cash and y'all will go buy the beer.
Fair. But yeah, Steve, you're going with Red. Andrew, you're going with Mike, and this is where the West Texas Panhandle is going to call me a traitor. I'm going to pull Mike and the Moon Pies out of this. They are going to be the top dogs.
That's not my final two.
That they, whatever vibe they've got going, whatever train they're riding right now is the one they're on. Again, I would like to see Mike and the Moon Pies at that. You know, same with Red Shahan. They all need to be on that Tyler Childers, Jason Isabel, Sturgill Simpson sort of level. But I see Mike and the Moon Pies getting there first. I see Mike and the Moon Pies getting that recognition before Red Shahan, but I still see Red getting that recognition, getting that love in time. If you look at my Spotify, I'm listening to more Red Shahan than I am Mike and the Moon Pies. But Mike and the Moon Pies takes this list for me, boys.
All right. Y'all ready to move on to the next one?
Absolutely.
Let's go to, let's see. We got 3/4 of the thing done. We've got one more bracket, which was my favorite one to put together. Now, I'm going to say up front that there's 18 people in this bracket. This could be one bracket really easy. I had to divide it up into two, something to the rest. So I've got the founders versus what I call the new gen legends. And dang, it was hard to seed these people because I took some liberties of moving, like Cody Canada I mentioned before, moving around to where they belong more than where their Spotify streams are. The legends, I think, get a different reverence than just who listens to them on Spotify sometimes. But we'll start with the number one seed, by far the most Spotify streams, is Aaron Watson. And put them with one of the oldest bands on the list, Asleep at the Wheel.
God bless Ray Benson. I give it a Asleep at the Wheel all day.
Yeah,
I know we're not doing that right now, but I'm going to do that right now.
Yeah, I love Asleep at the Wheel. I think Aaron Watson takes this just because of the people that love Aaron Watson love Aaron Watson. I mean,
absolutely.
If you meet an Aaron Watson fan at a different show and start talking to them, they're going to talk to you for an hour about Aaron Watson. And we talk about energy shows. Aaron puts on one of the best shows in music, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think he almost has his own Chris Ledoux style vibe without comparing him to Chris Ledoux, because there is no comparison. Chris Ledoux will always be royalty. But it's that same sort of vibe.
Yeah. So
high energy. I mean, what became Garth Brooks? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Andrew, any thoughts on this?
From a fan vote perspective, I'm with you, Tim. Steve, sorry, my brain is freaking out.
That's all right.
But,
We are still reeling from the news of Joe Diffie passing a little while ago. So
yeah, I don't think it's tried to sink in with everybody, but I don't think it has yet.
No.
I'll go with you on the Aaron Watson train. I think his fans will probably, if any fans come out, it'll be his. They're super loyal. They love his music. But personally, I would push Asleep at the Wheel forward. I think, just because of the true history they bring to this scene and what they've meant to it for the longest time.
Yeah, if anybody's grandfathered in, it's going to be Asleep at the Wheel.
Right.
Yes.
And I struggled if I should put Asleep at the Wheel or just Ray Benson in here. But Asleep at the Wheel, if you've seen them live, you understand they deserve all the reverence. They deserve a spot on here. Even if they had one follower on Spotify, they would probably make this list.
Absolutely.
All right, let's go to the 4-5 matchup. We have the heavyweight Robert O'Keefe as a 4 seed, which, God, I struggle with the 4 seed because he's as much a 1 seed as anybody else, but almost everybody in this category is. Robert O'Keefe versus Ray Wiley Hubbard. Probably one of the most controversial first-round matchups in music ever. And I know, Andrew, I think you mentioned that you cussed me out for putting him here.
I did. It's terrible. You can't. They're both the two people. You can say just their initials, and people go, "Yes, I know who that is."
Right.
And it is the most iconic that you can be in this scene is those two guys. And
exactly.
It's like Ray Wiley Hubbard taught a bunch of guys how to play guitar in this scene. And
there's Carl without Ray Wiley Hubbard. Let's start there.
Right.
And then Robert O'Keefe, you have like the song from this, like if you talk about a Texas guy, like what's the song? Road Goes On Forever. Everyone knows.
Never ends.
Everyone knows that song. It really is that.
I'm playing it at my wedding. Like, it's going down.
Yeah, it's the song. So this is like, if it has to be a first round matchup, it's going to be the one with all the views. That's the prime time game.
And honestly, this is where the numbers fell. And when I saw it as the 4-5 matchup, I'm like, oh, I got to move that. And then I thought, you know what? Let them battle. Let's see who wins this one. And I could have moved it, and I thought, I think either one will be gracious enough to say, yeah, the other one pulled this off. I don't think anybody's gonna get upset about it. And boy, if there's not some people coming out to vote for a round 1 matchup, this is it right here. So, I don't know who's gonna take it. I have arguments for either side that I will fight you that either one of them should win. I don't know how to reconcile it. So
yeah, this is a hard winner to pull, and I'm not putting an intro on this one, bud. Like I'm glad I got the bracket I did, as hard as it was, because this is one I'm not playing on.
Well, you're gonna have to turn your expert pick later in a couple days. So
neighbor's got a leaf blower, but I'm trying to smoke cigarettes, so we're gonna make that work.
This is one of the ones you flip a coin on. I don't know how you pick one of those. But again, it's what a 4 and 5 matchup should be. All right, moving on to the 3 and 6. We have Cody Canada, which Spotify had him down to 7 or 8. But with the I moved him up I think this is a fair spot. And then this is not fair to have Kevin Fowler in a play-in game with Jason Boland. Kind of the concession I made to have Cody Canada moved is to have a play-in game here, and this is where the numbers fell. And again, I don't know how you pick between Boland and Fowler for different reasons. I can make an argument for either one for totally different ends of the spectrum as far as Boland and songwriting and music, and Fowler as far as performing and entertainment. They're either you again flip a coin.
That's a really hard one, but I would at this point, I think I would give it to Boland just because of the factor of songwriting that he even has throughout the scene, not just in his own music. I mean, he's a co-write on 17 by Ragweed. He's got it.
Well, I mean, and if you listen to Cody talk, I mean, he credits people like McClure and Tom Skinner and Boland.
Yep.
They all came up in that scene. Same with Stoney. You know what I mean? Like
the Yellow House.
At this point, to me, this Boland versus Fowler is literally Texas versus Red Dirt.
Yeah.
And that's a hard one to swing, man, because I'm a New Mexican who moved to Texas, and I'm all about Texas, and I love that Red Dirt, but I live in Oklahoma now, so I can't really play a card either direction. It's all about the cheap bourbon whiskey and pearl snap shirts, all freaking day. But I am at least halfway through a long line of losers, so this is a hard card to play.
Well, and selfishly, I'm pulling for Boland because I want to see the Cody Canada Jason Boland matchup after that.
I would much rather see Kevin Fowler Cody Canada, and even then I'd like this is a hard three-way. Either way, it doesn't matter who you put, Cody or Jason on the bottom, or even or Cody, however you want to alternate these guys. This is a hard fought battle.
Right, but to be fair, you put Cody Canada with Ray Wiley or Robert O'Keefe or Aaron. I mean, none of these are fair matchups.
That's why this category is what it is. You've got to put everybody's in this pool fighting it out.
Right. Andrew, you were gonna say something?
Well, I was gonna ask Quayde because he said he'd rather see a Cody Canada Kevin Fowler matchup. Why is that?
Because I hate to see home blood fight. You know what I mean? Like even with my 806 bias, with my West Texas bias, you know what I mean? I hate to see. One reason the Flatline Cavalry William Clark Green duke out is so hard for me is that's you don't
want anybody to lose.
Red Raiders pick their favorite Red Raider. That's hard, man.
That's exactly what I'm doing.
And Jason Boland being an Okie and being a protege of Tom Skinner, and same with Cody Canada, and Mike McClure, all of them kind of coming out of that same fold of that quilt. I hate to see that much infighting.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave that up to the Okies. I'm gonna let them iron those details out. I would rather pick between Kevin Fowler and Cody Canada, but that's not discounting Jason Boland. I just don't want to see the Boland Canada people fight it out.
Well, next year we'll have a committee and we'll seed this a little bit more scientifically.
But I'm gonna give a lot more beer for the committee.
There's some infighting on purpose in the first round. Hopefully, there's some infighting on the second round to get to the final 8. So
yeah, this is what makes it fun, man. The fights you don't want to see are the best ones.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Number 2 seed Pat Green against the number 7 seed Jack Ingram. That's a battle of the Titans here.
Yeah, I don't see how this is a 2 and a 7. Like again, this is that Legends shit.
Yeah.
Again, Jack Ingram is surprisingly low in Spotify streams. Yeah. I considered him moving him up, but again, where do you put Jack Ingram? You wouldn't put him against Robert O'Keefe, Ray Wiley.
Yes.
So I left it here because I think the matchup of Pat Green and Jack Ingram is epic. I think it's.
Well, I mean, do you? I mean, here's where my confusion is. Asleep at the Wheel is for number 8. Asleep at the Wheel is fronted by a dude named Ray Benson, who is the narrating voice, is the personality for, you know, the Texas music scene media. Is he not doing Texas music scene shit now?
Oh, now it's Jack Ingram.
Now Jack Ingram took over.
Well, I was about to say Jack has been doing this singer-songwriter showcase, so they've been partnering on that. But now Jack's heading it now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'm sorry I'm late to that party. But yeah, that's all I'm saying is like how are the number 7 and number 8 two of the biggest personalities in the hosts of our mass media in our scene?
Yeah.
Like they think like I get that. I mean, I'm glad they're in the top 8, but why are they not in the top 5?
Yeah, no, I could have moved it around. This was tough.
But again, it's not up to you. We're running on Spotify numbers. I know that, but still, it's one of those like, what the hell? No,
Well, it's especially with the legends. Spotify numbers were a guide. I let them fall where they did, and I made a couple of adjustments, but not that many because it's tough to. And honestly, I think the Kevin Fowler, Jason Boland is there because Asleep at the Wheel and Jack Ingram just didn't seem fair to go up against Aaron White. I don't know. This was done at 3 a.m. on Thursday night.
I mean, this is a hard fought category. Like I said earlier, you know, I'm glad I got the one that I got.
Yeah.
Because this is one I would have told you, fuck you, I don't know. Like I mean, nothing against you guys, you know.
Right.
It's
I don't know.
Like no, I can't pick between A and B. Like I know, I don't know.
See, I'm gonna be honest with you. When I was going through it and I did my bracket, this was kind of the easier of the categories for me. I'm like no sugarcoating it. It was
it's
pretty easy.
We'll break it down for us, man. I want to know why. I mean,
okay.
This is not angry. This is not stabby. I want to know why this is easy for you because this was the hardest for me.
Go ahead, Andrew. Break down this bracket all the way to the final, just on this one.
Okay, just on like the founders section, or
yeah, just founders.
Okay,
just founders.
So with the Aaron Watson and Asleep at the Wheel one, I chose Asleep at the Wheel pretty handily just because of, like I said before, the influence they have on everyone else, and the grandfathering in, whatever term you want to use. They brought this scene up. They set that really base concrete foundation for everyone else to build on, and that's why I chose them over Aaron Watson.
We don't have Bob Wills, but we still have Ray Benson.
Exactly. The Robert Earl Keen and Ray Wiley thing, that was the hardest one in here for me just because of the two of them. But I went with Robert Earl Keen just because of everyone knows the song, and every artist would go Robert Earl Keen's the dude. Who is Texas country music? Robert Earl Keen. Now the Fowler Boland thing, I went with Boland just because of, again, the influence he has on other artists, especially those like coming up. But also I come at it from an influence of Oklahoma artists more than Texas artists because Cody Canada was the dude that I started everything with. But that's one I could see that one going either way on the Fowler Boland thing. But I personally chose Boland. But off of those, Cody blows it out of the water because even now his influence on younger guys, but you look at Ragweed, it's as simple as that. Every single artist, no matter the artist, give me your top 5 artists of who influenced you in this Texas thing. Ragweed's going to be one.
Yeah.
Ragweed, every single list, there's not a question. So
Agreed.
Cody moves on to that one. Pat Green, Jack Ingram. That was really hard because I look at them now because I wasn't in this scene when they were as big as they were back when. But I still chose Pat Green because I know how big he was. I think personally, but that's for me, knowing them now, Jack Ingram should have gone in the songwriter.
Agreed. I struggle with that as well.
Yeah.
But we can debate that about Boland or Robert Earl or that's the beauty of the scene is it's all songwriters.
And Jack is big enough to be a legend.
Yep.
Whereas some of the songwriters haven't quite made it to legend status. Although, you know, I'm going to put Bruce and Radney. Yeah. They could, like I said, loosely based, but I agree with you.
Well, and even with that though, like the Jack Ingram and Pat Green thing is like Pat Green could be in the songwriter thing too. Like you hearing the song Galley Winner, that is a powerful song.
Yep.
And like Nightmare. I had never heard that song until they did the tribute album that Pat Green had, and John Bauman did that song. Blew me away. And the only recording I found of that song by Pat Green was live at Billy Bob's, which is another thing. He has a live at Billy Bob's album. That's something. So that's why I went with Pat Green on that one. So I'll go back up. So I had Sleep at the Wheel and Robert Earl Keen. I went with Robert Earl Keen. And I did that because of he's the legend of legends in this scene. He really is. He's the one everyone looks at and goes, man, is that Robert Earl Keen? And you know he's here. You know he's at this festival. But everyone backstage, is that Robert Earl Keen? Is he walking away from it? Yeah, that's him. So I went with Robert Earl Keen on that one. Cody Canada and Pat Green, that one was difficult because I know of the history that they both have as leaders in the scene. But the influence on every other person in this entire tournament, I still had to give it to Cody because of the power that he has with Ragweed out with songs. And I hate that I'm just going on Ragweed because I love the Departed stuff, but that Ragweed made this scene. Today they're in everything, every influence.
Yep.
And in that final two, which I would love to see this show is Robert Earl Keen and Cody Canada. Man, I'd kill for that show. I gave it to Robert Earl Keen because of how Robert influences Cody. And that's how this Legends bracket works for me is like they're the influences. They're the ones everyone looks at and goes, I want to be XYZ one day. I want to be this artist. I want to be that artist. And for me...
I think that bracket still, I mean, I wish they were in different categories, but like you said, like, if who's the legend, who do you want to be? I still think it comes down to Robert Earl or Ray Wiley.
Yep. And I gave
I get that that's the 4 and 5. That's what makes the 4 and 5 such a hard bracket because you can't break them up like that, but that should be the 1 and 2. Like, that should be your who or who else. That's what it should be.
Yep.
Yeah.
In my mind. Not to interrupt you. Fuck shit up.
That one. We can move on to the new gen.
All right, let's go to new gen. Hold on one second. So we're down to the last sub-region, which is the new gen. We got everything. So we got, we'll start with the number 1 seed down there. We got Casey Donahue as the number 1 seed, got a huge following on Spotify. Against, it's a difficult playing game for me, Roger Krager and Mickey and the Motorcars. I think Mickey and the Motorcars is probably, I mean, with who else we have on this list seated correctly, I think Roger Krager is seated lower than that. Yeah. I'm surprised he didn't have more followers, but again, where do you move him on this list that we're about to go through?
Exactly.
Because of that, I think Roger Krager has a good shot to take this draw.
Yeah,
I give Krager over Mickey and the Motorcars.
Yep.
I like Mickey and the Motorcars. They're great. They're definitely a standard and a staple of the scene. And we wouldn't be halfway where we were without them and Reckless Kelly and you know, I mean the Braun brothers in general. But I mean, LJT Beer Shower is a Krager show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks for itself. I think that carries its own energy, and I'd at least put that bracket Donahue versus Krager. And I give it to Krager and Donahue.
Even for me, the Roger Krager thing, it's like, so everyone knows I live in New Braunfels.
That dude is the captain of Party Anthem, and now you can't fucking top that.
Very proud of where I live and Green Hall being the venue it is, and it's an intimidating venue. He comes here twice a year, so he does spring break shows. He does 3 of those, sells them out every time. Then he does his birthday shows at Green Hall. That was like 4 or 5 shows, sells them out every time, no question. That's what separates him for me is like he sells it. Fans want it, and he has the following.
Yeah,
agreed.
So moving on to the next one. Let's go back to here. The 4 and 5, Wade Bowen and Stoney LaRue.
That's a hard one.
It is a hard one. Hey, let me just say, well, before we move to that, I did a secondary thing where I just grouped everything 1 to 72 or 1 to 64, and literally the middle of the pack was Mickey and the Motor Cars versus Reckless Kelly. I thought that would have been a great matchup. Not fair.
Man, that's so horseshit. That's literal brother versus brother. Like,
I know.
I'm like as much as my opinion matters, I'm not gonna put a dog in that fight because that's asking for bullshit.
Right.
Of all of these, that's the one asking for problems.
Right. I thought that was a little too close to home, but let's go back to the 4 and 5. Wade Bowen and Stoney LaRue. Andrew, what do you think?
It's difficult, man. I've spent time with both of these artists in the photo capacity. As far as classics go, though, it's hard. It's hard to make a decision. Let me see what I actually went with. So in this one, I chose Wade because he is grabbing a newer crowd with his newer music, and I also kind of had a pretty close, not front seat, but pretty close seat to when he had his problems with his voice this past couple years, and he thought he might have had to retire.
Yep.
But came back stronger, better than ever, and sounds absolutely better than he ever has. And that's why I gave this one to Wade, because I think he's really about to have a resurgence in this scene and go back to being the absolute top.
And honestly, Wade's easy to root for. Not that Stoney's not, but of all of these people on who does the best for charity and for his other musicians and everything else, Wade's easy to root for. Right? And he's
absolutely
great.
I love Wade Bowen. Again, the Lubbock bias. I think he's awesome. He's one of those, like, I definitely see him becoming a legend. Not just in West Texas, but like he will eventually become a Robert L. Keane, a Jack Ingram, a Ray Wiley Hubbard type of our scene. To our kids, to our grandkids. I see that longevity in his career, and I see that with Stoney too. And I love Stoney LaRue. His records were some of the first ones that I was really bound to when I first got into the music scene.
We'll go to the 3-6. Matchup. Randy Rogers versus Reckless Kelly.
Kind of easy for me, honestly. Now, not in terms of people or the music they make, because those are all top-notch people. But if you look at the way Randy's become this legend in this scene, there's not a venue he can't sell out. In terms of fans and the way I think it's going to go, Randy Rogers takes it.
And if I'm ranking the most underrated bands on this list, I put Reckless Kelly right up there with just about anybody.
Dude, they got Engelman from Turnpike, man.
Right.
The new song they put out, North American Jackpot. Oh my goodness.
Right.
Dude, I haven't heard it. Is it a fucking Slaughterfest?
Oh, you need to get on it.
Okay, I'm gonna do that as soon as this is over. That's what I'm doing.
But because they're underrated, which is why I think Randy Rogers is not underrated. Randy Rogers is legit and deserves a 3 seed, and I think he takes that one too. We'll move on to the final matchup of the 64 or 72 teams is the number 2 seed Josh Abbott against the number 7 seed, and somebody that I debated over and over again about how do you put him in the new gen and put Pat Green in the Founders? They should be in the same.
Yep.
But it is what it is. So Josh Abbott versus Corey Morrow.
Here's how I actually would have done it. I would have switched Aaron and Corey and figured out a numbers perspective that way, but that would have put everyone in the right category for me.
I got it.
I see what you did there.
Yeah, that's.
I would call Corey a founder of this scene with Pat when he was the party Corey Morrow.
Yeah, and I went into this saying that these 18 people are all the same to me. So dividing them into founders and legends is just a label.
Yeah.
Corey is a founder. Aaron Watson is a new gen, in my opinion. Randy Rogers is a founder. I mean, there's a lot of the Roger Krager was my introduction. One of the first ones that I was introduced to in the scene. All of these new gens could be founders, but there are some. It's just tough. I think Josh Abbott's a new gen. Although he's the founder, he's influenced more people than anybody else on the red dirt.
Him and Will Green are both established new legends in the Panhandle music scene. Coach Corey Morrow is also Texas Tech alumni, so is Pat Green. But when you think of like, your new Lubbock guys, your big Lubbock guys, it's Josh Abbott, William Clark Green, and Filing Cavalry. Yeah. That puts Abbott in that category for sure.
With this match,
before him was Corey Morrow, and if you ask Corey, if you ask Will, or if you ask Josh, you ask Will, they'll say, "Man, Corey Morrow." So
there was
I give him legend status over Josh, but that's just legend status. I still give Josh my overall vote.
There was a show at Whitewater where it was Josh Abbott headlining, and apparently they told him he could have anyone he wanted on the show with him, and it was Pat Green and Corey Morrow. And that's exactly what Josh said, is these two are the ones that influenced me the most.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I want to see. That, and I expect nothing less from those guys, because that's all salt of the earth shit.
But in this being the section of the bracket that I was doing, I gave it to Josh Abbott, just because of the power he brought. But really and truly, I know nothing about the Corey Morrow of old.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I don't know much, because I wasn't even really listening.
Right.
I wasn't listening to Texas music, but I wasn't even really being influenced by music by the age that he was doing that thing, and he was a headliner at LJT and things like that. I didn't know. Like, I know him as the Christian songwriter that has changed my life with his music.
Right. It's interesting you say that, because I know
Corey Morrow's Christian music.
Well, yeah, he's listen to his stuff today compared to the stuff 10 years ago. I was raised on the old Corey Morrow. To watch Corey Morrow go from that and all of the struggles that he's had to where he's at today has been really, really cool to watch. But I know both Corey Morrows, and that's why it's been cool to watch. So for you to say that you don't know the old one is really cool.
Because that's the album for me. That's my Corey Morrow album. That's 2015. Right. And it really did open my eyes to you can have your opinions on faith and bring it into Texas music. Because that was really something that was sidestepped. That hadn't really happened in my vision and eyes and the artists I listened to. And that's why I went with Josh Abbott on that one, was because of I realized that it's because I don't know the old Corey Morrow. But I went with what I know of Josh Abbott now is headlining Mardi Gras Texas style a few weeks ago, and having his own night at Larry Joe Taylor and things like that. So that's why I went with Josh Abbott on this one, and it was hard to do. And I think if I were to have been a fan of this scene when Corey Morrow was the big city stripper Corey Morrow, I probably would understand it a little bit more.
Yeah.
I mean, not to play the old head card, Andrew, but thankfully you've been pretty tame thus far. I mean, for being a young cat coming into the scene, you haven't gone hard on drugs or boozing or anything like that. So you
never done any of it.
Well, I mean, again, I hope you keep your nose clean the whole fucking time you're around.
I have confidence.
But as a dude who has put himself in liver failure and been in rehab twice, I get the hard party aspect more than anything. And I enjoy the hard party aspect. The old Corey Morrow, that's my fucking jam. But sometimes I stumble. That's when he carries me. I'm not a religious person, but I get the precedent behind that song, and I see that. So, as much as you may have not been around old party Corey Morrow, I'm glad you don't see that hard party aspect, if I may say that.
That's why Corey Morrow is so fascinating in here, because you and I know I've never been to rehab, but to have him be the artist that he is today, still singing to the fan that grew up with him, he's basically preaching to you without you knowing that you're being preached to. And I think that's great. I think that's exactly what country music needs. That's exactly where Corey Morrow's lane is today. And it's a fascinating journey to watch for him. Hard to put him in the new gen, but heck, anybody's got a chance to win this. Anybody. So that's it. That's the whole bracket. We finally got to the end. Only 3 hours later.
So we had Josh Abbott, Randy Rogers as that was the first one, and that's hard because they're kind of not that they're chasing, but Josh Abbott's kind of in the same position Randy Rogers is, like 3 or 4 years before him. You know what I mean?
Right.
He is the big thing, and Randy's at a point, and they're doing the big thing. They both are. But in terms of it being a Legends bracket, I gave it to Randy. I let that one kind of do its thing. And I'm going to stand by that one without much commentary. Now the Wade and because we had the Casey Donahue and Krager in the motor cars. So originally I picked Krager over the motor cars, and then I picked Casey Donahue over Krager. And that one's I think that one's the ruffle a couple feathers on my section a little bit.
I'm not gonna lie, it ruffles mine, but I get where you're coming from.
Well, from a fan standpoint, Casey Donahue has a huge Spotify following.
Yeah, Casey's put out more. And I think as a showman, I think Casey's a little bit better. I'm not gonna lie. I love Rob.
I don't see Casey Donahue on a Shiner box or on a Shiner box during the quarantine.
Isn't that Randy and Wade that are doing that right now?
It is. So you can't put Randy and Casey against each other.
I haven't yet, but you just wait, sir. So I had Casey and I had Casey and Wade, and that is a hard matchup because they're like, I think this is one of those things where like they're so evenly like looked at in this scene as the legends who've established themselves, but there's still so much we haven't seen from them that they're gonna do.
Agreed. I see a longevity in both of their careers.
Yes, I went with Wade because I'm standing by the. I really think we're getting ready to see a resurgence of Wade Bowen in this scene. I really do.
I'm hoping to see a new.
So
fire.
that left the hold my beer and watch this new gen finals. I had Randy and Wade going up against each other.
Nice.
Yes. That's the shit I'm talking about.
And this was rough because of what I've been talking about. Randy's the legend status. Randy's the gold standard for this scene. And Wade, I've said it multiple times now, he has something big coming. And I don't know what it is, but I feel it. I see it in him. That the scare he had is pushing him. And whether all this coronavirus stuff pushes more, that's great. But I see stuff from Wade. But I went with Randy. I really did. I think that Randy has the he has the stones to prove it, man. He's done it all in this scene, and he continues to do it all over and over again. So I went with Randy, and overall in our Legends bracket, that puts Randy Rogers and Robert Earl Keen against each other.
Wow.
And
that's fucking hard, man. That's a rough
that
match
was
right there.
one of the most difficult decisions of this thing that I made while filling out my bracket. But I went with Robert Earl Keen just because
he is the quintessential legend.
I have heard 5,000 people scream "The Road Goes On Forever" with him.
Yeah,
and I've heard 5,000 people scream to Randy, but it's that thing of every single person would say the name Robert Earl Keen is when you ask who started this thing, who's the legend. Robert Earl Keen, Ray Wiley Hubbard are the two names, and that's why I went with Robert Earl Keen on that. And that's the Legends bracket.
Fucking A, dude. That's my hat's off to you, man. I could not have done that bracket. That's hard work.
Let's just do this every Sunday for 3 hours. This is fun. We'll just make up.
I'm in. I'm in. Like I'm okay with this. I can schedule my stuff even after quarantine. I can get Sunday.
And I really appreciate y'all taking the time out of your day to do this. And I thought I didn't really plan it this way. Y'all were the ones that jumped on, but Quayde, to have you and Andrew to have you, kind of differing, and I got this toward the end of our conversation, differing ends of the spectrum. And
yeah, you've got angels and devils sitting right next to you, bro.
Yeah, I've always known that, but it kind of fell out that way during the conversation, especially the Corey Morrow about it really was a fascinating discussion from start to finish. So that's all I'm here for.
Steve, I'm more than blessed to have this opportunity. You know, I only get to do so much on my platform hosting, you know what I mean? So it's cool to take, I mean, I'm sure I was a little loud and talked more than I should have, but it's cool to take the back seat on this and be a guest and, you know, have a role and get to mingle with everybody and hang out. I love this aspect. I love the multi-guest platform that's going on here. And Hello Texas is the new big thing in Texas Red Dirt Music Podcast. If you don't listen to that shit, you're behind the pod. You're behind the curve, sir. Well, so make sure that first and foremost, if you're a listener of the Quayde Things Podcast, you listen to Hello Texas Podcast, and that you follow Andrew Quinn Photography on all platforms.
Oh yeah, and go buy his stuff. Go buy your Andrew. I need to go buy one of the photos, even though I don't need one. I've got plenty. Everybody needs to buy an Andrew Quinn photo right now.
Yeah, well, Steve, did you take that profile picture that I had where I'm like all at the front row of
No, I didn't.
Was it you or Tim? It was one or the other.
It might have been Tim. It wasn't me. I don't remember taking it if I did. And I would have remembered that
Larry
photo.
Joe, it's not surprising.
Right. I did get you in the background a couple times. You were pointed out that I see me back there, and I didn't know you at the time. I didn't even know that it was you in the background of the photo. So.
It's all good, man. I hate standing out, man. I love when people say hi and shake my hand and all that stuff. But man, I got into this shit because I'm a fan, first and foremost, and I want to be front row, jamming out, shit faced with God and everybody. You know what I mean? I'm not, just because I can be side staged in the bus after the show does not mean I'm better than anybody. Like, I want to jam out with God and everyone, man. It's not about being in focus on all the pictures. Like, yeah, I want to be, a year or 2 years later, oh shit, yeah, Quayde's in the background. Like, that's the shit I want, man. I don't want pictures taken of me,
Yeah, I everything you just said, I mimic. I'm a photographer because I'm a fan first.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's why we're all in this.
I got to sit with Holly Tucker, and she sang 3 songs to me and Tim a couple weeks ago in my living room, and I got to hang out with Randall King and Joey Pruski at Coke Fest last year, and they did some stuff.
Freaking animal. I love him.
Did some stuff to embarrass my daughter on the side of the stage, and that's I'm just doing it because I'm a fan, and the camera's my backstage pass, and I don't expect anything from the artist. I'm just a fan. I don't need their autograph. I don't need a selfie. I'm just happy to be a part of it. Yeah, absolutely.
Amen.
So guys, let's wrap it up because I've got now 3 hours of recording. That's about 8 hours of editing probably. Now I'm gonna edit sloppily and quickly because I want to get this out. I want people to see it. But I just really appreciate y'all. And I'm serious. Let's do this again each week while the stuff comes out. We'll check in occasionally with the status of the bracket, and we'll be the ESPN of the Texas Red Dirt bracket scene. So,
dude, I'm so game to be TXPN with you guys. Like there's no way we can't fucking do that.
Absolutely,
we can do this.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Y'all have a great rest of your Saturday or Sunday.
Steve, Andrew, I love you guys from the bottom of my black ass heart. Thank you so much.
I do too. Thanks, guys.